is up, Podheads? Back with another episode of the Podioslave podcast. My name is Tony, joined as always by Anthony.
Still here, baby.
And Antoine, have you ever had big dreams of making big cream?
Oh, baby, I have. And Sen's responsible. He planted that seed many moons ago.
Yeah, same. Yep. No, this was a fun conversation that we had, and we'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, this continues to be a place that I enjoy coming to, the podcast, and being able to shoot the shit with you about music once a week. You know, we saw Bane earlier this week too. Just stuff like that. And I don't know where I'd be without music, and I'm sure not as happy of a person. And today is one of those days that brings that full circle, and I'm like, man, this is awesome.
You know, I love that because it makes me think, like, we have kind of created this own world, and it's a virtual world because we're talking virtually to people, but like we've met people in person because of this, you know, and there's always something to look forward to. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing. So if this is your first time listening to this podcast, we are a music podcast, metal, punk, rock, hip hop, any and everything in between, every subgenre you could think of. And honestly, just go back and look at the older episodes. This is episode what, 240, 241,
I think. Yeah.
So there's a lot back there, and we're gonna give ourselves a little commercial here. Who have we had on this podcast recently?
Well, recently we did the New England Metal and Hardcore Fest recap with Sean last week, but we did 20 Years of Hide Nothing with Steve Kleseth. Further Seems Forever a couple weeks ago. Jackson, a Silly Goose back there. We had Aaron Bruno of AWOL Nation, Barbarians of California. And actually that live show that we talk about with him will have happened. So I wonder how that went. And I'm hoping there's some video that has come out. So if you haven't listened to any of those, go check those out. And I mean, there's a bunch of people back there.
Alan Robert, Life of Agony.
Yeah, yep. Peanut from 311, Scott Ian, Frank Bello from Anthrax. Like we had so many different people in 4.5 years. And we'll just keep doing it, right? I mean, we like to check in. That comes up in the podcast with Sen here in a second, that every now and then we're like, are we still feeling this? We still enjoy doing this? And we're both pretty much, yeah, let's go. Let's keep doing this. We're having fun. We never know what's around the corner. And this is one of those instances where Sen Dog, legend, around the corner.
Yeah, just lurking around the corner. And we had a chance to chat with him. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. All in. Let's chat. And he's got a newer project in Powerflo, which started, 7 or 8 years ago. Legendary members of the band, and we get into it. Billy from Biohazard, Christian, formerly of Fear Factory. Just a project that I'm relatively new to, and I'm like, how did this slip my radar? Mm-hmm. I actually, you know, and they have a new album coming out here at the end of this week when this episode proper drops, called Guerrilla Warfare, and it's awesome. Listen to the whole thing, right up our alley. If you like thrash, it's got punk elements. If you like hip hop, Sen, it's a whole new dynamic for him. If you know him from Cypress Hill, there's certainly some of that, but he kicks it up a notch with the aggression and intensity. I love that he still has that flame, still got that fire. Mm-hmm. We talk about
you
that,
can see
right?
It. Yeah, you can see it in his face. You called it out. You're like, man, you look so happy still 30 years plus doing this. Yeah. Talking to us two idiots on the East Coast about your new, you know, and the new record coming out, and he's still got the fire, he's still got the flame, man. That's awesome.
And that's the thing is, you know, we know him from Cypress Hill, and we know that there's clearly always been an interest in heavy music. You see it in articles and interviews about him and the Judgment Night soundtrack and who they toured with, but to see him in this band is fucking wild. I want to see him live because I know it'll go off. It's good shit here, and it sounds like that may be in the cards here coming up.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear about all this stuff and how it came to be, and you know who called who, and the different kind of persona that Sen Dog was able to kind of find in himself with this project that he, you know, maybe hadn't explored in the past and didn't realize was even there until 6-7 years ago, and now. You know, it's fully on display with this new record and really cool stuff. And yeah, you know, I don't know if there's much else that we need to say. We could just kind of jump into this convo with Sen Dog, but it's a blast to do this every week with you, man. So yeah, let's keep it up.
let's keep it up and let's get right into it. Sen Dog, you know, from Cypress Hill, Powerflo, features galore over the years. Truly a legend in the game. Here he is. I see the Dodgers logo in the back, and I'm wearing a Yankees hat. This was not planned. They might see each other in the playoffs.
Well, that's what I think everyone in Los Angeles is hoping for, a Dodger Yankee World Series.
Oh, I'd love
like
that.
The good old days. You know, I was a little kid, the last time that happened, but I think the Dodgers have a great squad, and I think the Yankees have a great squad. And we're talking about, what's going to make the most money. I think the Dodgers and Yankees World Series would definitely do that.
That'd be the one. Yeah, I'm a lowly Red Sox fan over here. Just sad that you have Mookie Betts and Kike and all those guys that were awesome on the Sox back in the day. So.
Oh man, I just want to say thank you for Mookie Betts.
Dude,
gave him away.
Gave him away basically. I'm not gonna question it too much. We got a great player out of it. I think the first year I saw him play, I was like, wow, this guy's really good. I knew that he was a great player, but I just didn't know how really good he was. And then I saw him play, and I'm like, man, the guy he's a master of fielding and he hits home runs too. So, you got to give props and respect to a guy that could do all that,
Well, and he seems like a good dude off the field. I'm so sad about it. He was one of my favorite Red Sox of all time, and then they just let him walk. So they traded him for a bag of balls, which was a bummer, man.
Right on, man.
So, Sen, before we started recording, I was telling Tony and he actually had a similar story, but I was telling him back in the probably mid 90s, I was like 10, and there was a kid in the neighborhood that had 2 cassette tapes, Dre's The Chronic and Cypress Black Sunday. And we were fucking 9, 10-year-olds knowing we shouldn't have that, bumping it in the neighborhood. And between the imagery and the lyrics, we felt like we were like watching a horror movie, like trying to sneak away from our parents, listening to this. But so yeah, we go way back, man. That record, it was like a whole new world for us.
Yeah, we as kids growing up, I was always into like Kiss and Zeppelin and Sabbath, and groups of that era and what they did with their vinyl art, And I remember I used to buy records off what the covers had on them. You know what I mean? And if the cover was deep and intricate, that got me more involved in wanting to read all the lyrics, every musician that was on it, open the record up, look at the art, start thinking about what was the band thinking about when, before they put this art out. And most of the time the music always matched the album artwork. So I was always intrigued with how, the rock and rollers did their thing, especially the guys from the 80s. The heavy metal guys, because it was so like so many questions, just looking at the art, and I was like, I thought doing something like that would be cool. Around that time, I remember a lot of albums had like hip hop albums had like the artist on the cover, looking fresh and looking clean and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but how about something that's really going to intrigue people and get heads thinking and moving and whatnot. And that's what we came up with Black Sunday, which is actually, by the way, Black Sunday was when the Oakland Raiders won their first Super Bowl against the Minnesota Vikings. I was like 11 years old.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
And that was coined, that Super Bowl win was called Black Sunday because the Raiders won.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And also,
that's awesome.
And also, DJ Muggs was also in the sports too, and we knew that was the name of the Raiders win, so we just borrowed it and made it an album, because no one had ever used that phrase Black Sunday on a record, so that's where the idea came from, actually.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love when those things kind of intersect. I mean, we started this conversation that way, talking sports, right? We've done that a bunch with guests over the years, because I think it's one of those things that everybody wants to be. An awesome football player, a great baseball player. Everybody wants to be Sen Dog. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has those vibes growing up. Like, I would love to make it in one way or the other. And you made it in the music world. So that's pretty awesome.
Right on. I kind of upset my dad when I told him I didn't want to play baseball anymore. And we wanted to, pursue this hip hop, this rap stuff. And he had never heard of hip hop or rap. And he's like, well, how do you know you're any good at it? And that was the magic question, because we didn't know we were any good at it, but the desire was there. And my younger brother, Mellow Man Ace, went before us and scored a hit record and was able to do, great things for the family. So I think at that point, my old man was like, okay, well, let's see what this other guy's got in him, see what he could do. But for a second there, yeah, I was kind of like, he was upset because we were like good baseball players then, but when hip hop came in, that just changed the world for us in Los Angeles. And we were always looking at Run DMC and UTFO and Houdini and all those groups from the early '80s. And I wanted to, when actually saw Run DMC on Soul Train one Saturday because I had a
Nice.
routine that I would do on Saturdays. One of my friends would come over and we would get like 40 ounces and and we get like a dime bag of weed and we get stoned and drunk and then go in there and watch Soul Train and American Bandstands. And I saw Run DMC on Soul Train for the first time. I had never seen them. And, they had their whole get up on, the shoes with no laces and everything. And I was like, whoa, I want to be like those guys, So that was kind of like how I got into like hip hop.
What about on the heavier side? So that's like the lineage with the hip hop. But what
Yeah.
about you mentioned Black Sabbath? We saw it online. You're like 5 albums that defined you, and when it was Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Deftones. We love all those bands. How did that start?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I think I was like 15 or 16, and at that point, I was really, really, really into funk music because my older sister was, a funketeer, and she had all the latest dances and all that. And I was really into funk. But I went to high school with a kid, and we all know his name was Dave Lombardo.
Oh wow!
And we actually sat together in a class, and he invited me to see his band play at lunchtime one day in the high school there. And it was the original lineup for Slayer, and
Amazing.
I had never heard such music, but something about it that I liked. I liked seeing people playing a song together and whatnot. And from then on, I just started searching out more metal music. Motley Crue, "Shout at the Devil." We used to play that song before practice, and just to get hyped up. You know what I mean? So I just started.
Oh yeah.
I just started like looking for it more and more, and that just grew into me being a fan of the music till one day I wanted to try it, and after I tried it, and I don't think I was any good at it, but I like how it made me feel.
Hell yeah.
And it's always been a part of my life since then. And when I first started, I was in a band called SX10 that I met these guys from. I was trying to produce their band, and they wanted to fire their singer. So they were like, "You could work with us, or you could work with him. It's up to you. No hard feelings." So I decided to work with them. And one day they convinced me to get on stage, get on the rehearsal stage, and just to rap because they had no one singing, just bust a rap, whatever. And I did that, and I was like, "Ooh," I was hooked from then on. And I just tried to, try to do something different. And my first idea back then was to mix like rap lyrics with punk rock music, and then eventually the big rap metal scene came up and took off, and the powers that be, well, they didn't try. They actually changed us from a punk rap band to like a rap metal band.
Right on.
And
Yeah.
and as long as it involved guitars and whatnot, and I was trying to keep this deal alive, whatever. I'm good with trying whatever, man. So we went from there, and inside of me, I learned how to write the punk rap, the rap metal songs, but inside of me, there's still a little bit of that punker left that would
Hell
want
yeah.
to that like that kind of music. I thought it was really cool, fresh sounding, and you could rhyme at a decent speed to keep up with that band that's playing that punk rock stuff. That then they were like, okay, we got something here, let's try it. So we went on with that, and we released an album, and then recorded another album, which I felt like could have been like our breakout record if we would have stood, if that band would have stood together. But a lot of going up and then coming down hard, happened with that band. So eventually we never broke up. We just stopped jamming. You know what I mean? I'm still friends with them. But I credit those guys with the desire for having to want me in their band, and knowing that I had never been in a band like that, but they didn't care. They just, I don't know, there's something about me that they liked, whenever that is. and and we went for it. But I always credit those guys with being the guys that I learned how to write, rap metal songs too. Was those guys from SX10.
So obviously that itch was still there, and you guys formed Powerflo in what 2016, right? So take us back. Tell our listeners how you guys kind of came together, because we know there's some history. You had some history with Billy. You had some history with Christian beforehand, doing some songs. But
Yeah.
when did you all be like, all right, let's get together and make this a band? Let's put a record together. Let's put a couple records together.
Well, I started recording. I had an idea for a solo project, and I started recording with a guy named Josh Lynch in Los Angeles. And the more that we went on, the more I started realizing I'm going to need a band if I'm going to make this work. Because my first thought was like, just slam it with like a DJ and me, and we'll do it that way. You know what I mean? But then I started thinking, band wise, and I started. I called up Christian. Now Christian had just had a bad motorcycle accident, and he was
wow.
and he was laid up on the couch. And I remember I went to his house and I played him some of the demos, and he would ask me like, "Who's that singing?" And I'm like, "That's me, man." And I don't
Oh
think
shit! Really?
yeah,
He was that.
I don't think he wanted to because the Fear Factory thing had just fallen through for him and all that, and I think he was still upset about that kind of in a way. But then when I played him the demos, and mind you, he's sitting on the couch, he's got his walker there and everything. The guy's foot is messed up, but he said, "Yeah, man, okay, I got to get better, with my foot and everything." And then that he would join. So then we got Billy involved, and Billy was a funny thing because I always tell this as a joke. Like when we approached Billy, first he said yes, and then he said no, and then he said yes again, and then he said no again, and then finally he said okay, yes.
Why was he
Nice.
flip flopping? What made him flip flop? Just too
I
much
don't
going
know,
on.
man. I don't know. I mean, he was doing the producing thing at the time, and Biohazard was not had gotten back together yet or anything. And I don't know. I don't know what his reasoning was, if he wanted to get deep into producing or whatnot. I guess, but the more the demos were, he listened to the demos. I guess made him want to be part of it. And once we got Billy involved, the production of it really stepped up. Because Billy, he produces as well as plays guitars and he sings. And when he got in, all of a sudden, now we're just knocking down songs left and right, And we had a drummer, a guy named Fernando Schaefer, that we had to replace. But when I first heard him, I thought he played really good. And now we have a guy named Fred Aching Rios, and he's he's younger than us, but he plays in a band called Bullet Boys, and then he plays with us too. And that's kind of sort of how it came about. But going back to like back in the days in like 1993 or something, I was approached by Evan Seinfeld from Biohazard, and he wanted to get me on a song, and I told him, man, I've never done any band stuff like that before ever,
Shit, yeah.
and he didn't seem to care. He was like, just come to the studio and whatnot. So I went, and I think Evan was the only one that really wanted me in there recording, right? But he insisted, So we went on ahead and we did that in '93, and it was a good experience for me, a learning experience. And I decided to, if a band or whoever, any band that wanted me to, guest vocals on whatever, I will go ahead and do it because I just love that music, and I love being on stage and hearing all those guitars and drums crash around me.
Oh yeah.
And there's just something to that, man. It just makes me feel like a superhero or something. I don't know. It gives me a sense of power. I think it's what it is. And so we went on. We released our first album, and I think I forget what year, 2018 or something like that. And like I said, it was supposed to be a solo project, but I turned it into a band, and I'm glad that I did, because I've been able to. We were able to make a good record, and we were able to go out and tour and open up for a lot of big bands that I thought I would never, be associated with or around. And it's all due to that Powerflo and all those guys in Powerflo that that we achieved that together.
I'm so stoked you talked about how that initial Biohazard, how it is feature went down, because I was going to ask you about it. So did you have a relationship with Evan at all, or
Yeah, we actually
at the
did
time,
when we.
or was it just a phone call from the blue?
No, we would play Roseland's Ballroom in New York City every year,
Oh, nice.
right?
Yeah.
And this guy with long hair, tattoos everywhere, starts showing up, and he's friendly and all that. So we struck up a friendship together, Evan and I, and then he like talked me into like coming in and recording with him. And I'll tell you how green I was that I didn't even write the lyrics for that song. They had the lyrics written already, and they
Oh,
were like,
wow.
"Well, if you could, you could write your own lyrics if you want, or you could just bust these." And I'm like, I'm just gonna bust these because I really didn't know where to come from. That was how confused I was, or not knowing the process of what it took. But working with them, I learned a lot about hardcore music, the history of hardcore, and how to start to scribble down ideas and lyrics and whatnot. And that all came from that session with Biohazard.
Because DJ Lethal's on that song too. I remember.
Yeah, Lethal's another one that a hip hopper that also loves the heavy music and stuff. And I remember we were on tour together with House of Pain, and we were in Europe. And back in those days, Europe was very boring to be in. And so I spent a lot of time, talking with DJ Lethal, and we talk a lot about music and who his favorites were, my favorites, and whatnot. So when he joined Limp Bizkit, I wasn't surprised.
Man, I love this shit. I love all this lore. This is amazing.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's always fun to get the backstory on this stuff. It's why we started this thing 4.5 years ago. So I'm just thinking, early on, you guys, you call Billy, you call Christian, you get together. Is there any like conversation around what you want to sound like, or are you like, from the gate, the jump, this is what it's going to sound like? I want you guys to come in and make this happen with me.
There was no conversation of how we wanted to sound like. I just didn't want to sound like anybody else. Like, give me whatever track you guys got. Just make sure it doesn't sound like anything popular or familiar that someone's gonna be like, oh, they're copying so and so, and so we went from there. And then I remember I wrote a song called Resistance with Josh Lynch, and I think another one, I don't remember what it was, but those are the songs that I went and I played for Christian, and then we played for Billy. And I could see the wheels turning in Billy's head as he listened to it. And I had been working on with Billy on material for other bands that he was producing, and he would call me in like, "Hey, I got a guest spot for you here and there. They're going to pay you this much money. Come on down." And I would always ask him, "Have you got any tracks yet?" He goes, "No, I don't got any tracks. I don't got any tracks." So about maybe like 2 years of me going to the studio and asking, doing working with him and asking him, and one day I asked him, "Hey, got any tracks yet?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, I do."
Oh, hell yeah.
So we
Nice,
sat
nice.
down and we listened to music and we started writing. I think I wrote The Grind for the first album, right there with Billy, and Start a War and things like that. So we just kept going because every song that we did, we both liked more than the last song that we did. So we just kept going and going and going, and then we just decided to okay, let's get serious about this. So when the time came to put the band together and see what we had, me and Billy had a few songs already that we wanted to incorporate into the band structure. So we went on ahead and we did that. And I can honestly tell you, like, working with Billy, I've never had a producer that has gotten my mind as open as Billy has with me. You know what I mean? And I knew that there was something there. So every time he called me, I was like, I'm gonna go. And whatever he wants to do, I'm gonna go do it. If it was, I don't know if it was for him, if I would have worked so hard at it, because he's always down to work anytime. You know what I mean? Like, even if he has to cancel something just to be in the studio to meet me there, he'll do that. And that lets me know the dedication that you got to have to pursue this kind of activity. You got to be willing to put things aside, and for the greater good of the band, of the music that we're trying to create. And when you got it and it's hot in your mind, go knock it down now. Go do it now before you forget about it, or you think too much about it, start thinking maybe it wasn't that good or whatever. He's also the first producer that I recorded what I wrote. You know what I mean? The first time there was no like, no, I got to rewrite this or I got to rewrite that. I just became comfortable with what I was coming up with, and that's helped me a lot too. So before I would, always second guess, how I sounded, what I was saying. I would always second guess stuff and rewrite stuff. But when I started doing Powerflo, I kind of came into my own, and I was just like, whatever I wrote down that day, and if it sounded good and it's rocking and it goes with the band and the other guys like it, then I'm just gonna keep it and I'm gonna stop second guessing.
Hmm.
And that's one of those things that working with Billy that helped me to realize that I didn't have to second guess myself so much.
Is that some of that just the nature of having some, I guess, experience at that point, right? You've been doing it for 20, 25 years. You know yourself probably a lot better in 2016, 2017 today than you did in 92, 93 when you're putting stuff together for Cypress. Is that part of it, having that experience?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And it all goes back to seeing Lombardo and those guys play in high school and knowing, what I'm doing now, that I was able to kind of like just get used to myself. You know what I mean? Get used to
Oh
myself
yeah.
because I never used, when I would hear my voice on a record, I always hated my voice and the way I sounded. And I learned how to, just be comfortable with what I'm doing, man, and be comfortable with myself and whatnot. And always to remember that not everybody's going to like your music. There's just no way around it. Some people are going to like it and some people are not. And, and
It's
once,
so true. It is
yeah.
so true.
And once I, just put that out of my head, as long as I like it and the guys I'm working with like it, then we're gonna use it, and that's just part of the learning curve from, because when I first started with Cypress Hill, I was called what is known as a hype man. You know what I mean? Because
Oh wow.
I wasn't always good in the studio, but I was always good on stage. And when I would hit the stage, it would make me hyper and make me want to just do things, Yeah, but I can tell you the honest truth that there's only one real hype man in hip hop, and his name is Flavor Flav. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yep.
I just started to try to concentrate more on my writing, and I think that it was the guitars and the heavy music that gets me going and gets me thinking. And I always tell people this, that when guitars are played correctly in the right way, those guitars say words to me, and sometimes full sentences. And just by getting stoned and playing a demo and listening to the guitars, I come up with ideas. So I just kept going forward with that, and just learning more about myself as I went along on the way to creating Powerflo.
Well, I think partnering with Billy and Christian, they're masters of their craft, right? I mean,
Yeah,
in the range too, right? With Billy, you got hardcore metal, hip hop. He's got the production layer on that. With Christian, who's more on the metal side. Back then, when you met these guys, did you think you'd ever be in a band with them?
no,
Not
no,
a
no,
not a
no,
chance.
not a clue,
Not
not
a
a
clue.
clue. And that's the beautiful thing about music. You never know what's going to happen next, right? So we were always good friends. Christian, we would have we would have his band play with us because we had such a good connection with him, and he was a great brother. And he would come up, that's when I first saw like Fear Factory and whatnot. And I would watch him play, but never ever thinking like one day I'm going to do something with him or anything like that. Cypress was really big at that time, and why would you work harder if you don't have to, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
But the music just kept coming at me, and kept waking me up every morning, and to the point where I back in the days there was a video show, I forget what it was, but they would play like a lot of rock, a lot of heavy metal and alternative stuff. So I started picking up a guitar, man, and just imitate and try to imitate what those guys are playing on TV, and learn how to strum, along to how they're moving their hands,
Nice.
and that was part of my whole education of being in heavy metal, was just getting to know, how this genre was formed and who started it, and what did they do and what was different about them, you know what I mean? So I just kept gaining more knowledge and trying to move forward with the whole, being in a metal band. And I consider myself, I don't know if this is wrong for me to say, but I consider myself a better vocalist in a metal band than I do in a hip hop band.
Oh wow.
Well, you show up, man. We've listened to both
Yeah. Oh
records.
yeah.
Yeah, you bring it.
Right on, man. Thank you. And you know that when we went in to do the second album, Billy and Christian were like, okay, we heard you rap and you're good at that and everything, but now just let it out. Get pissed off and go in there and just be mean, man. And I'm like, ooh, all right.
All right. Yeah.
Yes,
I
Okay.
like the sound of
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, so I tried it and they were impressed. So I was like, okay, cool. So that what you hear on these songs is exactly that. And just letting all the inner angst out and releasing everything, all the frustration or whatever you have inside you, just letting it out on the track. And there's something therapeutic about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the new record is coming out on November 1st. So if you're listening to this today, it comes out later this week. We've had the privilege of checking it out. It's heavy, it's thrashy, there's punk, there's metal, there's hip hop. It's got all the elements that you would expect that we've talked about for the last, half an hour or so. But was it different to make this one than the original, the first record you guys put out in 2017? Or was this more, we know what we're doing, let's just get in there and do it?
No, it was different because of the fact that they wanted me to sing different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it all goes along with, on the third album that we're gonna make, then you're gonna see exactly what I've learned from, the first album, the second album, and to what we're gonna do in the third album. It'll all make sense then. But to answer your question, yeah, it was in a way, yeah, because I was coming I was trying to do something that I've never done before, and it made me love the music even more. Because there's certain ways that you could sing, and like they told me, we heard you rap and it's good and that's great, and if that's what you want to do, go ahead. But I think Billy told me, I think that there's more in you that you don't know about if you would just try it, and so we tried it, and here we are, talking Powerflo and our new release, and I just wow, it's been years since the first album, but a lot has happened since then. Like, for one, COVID happened, which, stopped the get down. And then I moved to Las Vegas, and that also slowed it. And just a bunch of things that happened, but we never stopped believing in the music. So we were like, one day we're going to get this record out, and bam, here it is.
Yeah, man. The record has your flow, but there's a step up in aggression. And there's one song, well, all of them are great, but there's one song where it stands out more than the others. The Wrong One, man. The Wrong One, baby. I love that song.
Ooh, yeah.
You're like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's from just going into the studio and writing what's on my mind, whatever comes out of my pencil or pen that day. And I told Billy, I go, hey man, I think I got something, but it's, really, really, you could consider it violent or anything. He's like, let me just hear it. So I went in there and I busted it. And he's like, okay, now come out here and write a second verse. So The Wrong One, it's basically about, growing up in LA, man, and living, being part of the streets in that environment. And you never know when you're in that realm, when you're going to meet the wrong one. And, that wrong one's going to have some, some intentions on his mind that you may not be thinking about. And that's what I say. You don't want to mess with this wrong one. Forget the other lyric, but it comes from like a dark side of life, being, having experience from the streets and all that. And that's what I tapped into to write that song. I remembered some of the guys that I grew up with that were friendly as heck when they knew you, but if you were their enemy, they were the wrong ones to come across. And that's where that came from, man. The wrong one. And I also like the nature of the song, the aggressive way the instruments were being played made me want to be more aggressive as well. So, and I think I don't remember if Billy wrote that song or a Christian produced it, whatever, but it really got my mind going. And I played it for people. They're like, dude, what's that song about? I tried to explain it to them, but they're like, nah, you're talking about yourself back in the day right there. I go, no.
That's first person perspective right there.
Yeah. I mean, I was a rowdy kid, but I don't think I was ever that guy. But that definitely come from the experiences of growing up in South Los Angeles and being around a lot of crazy guys and knuckleheads and just seeing, what the streets do to people out there. And and what could happen even if you think you're just jumping in to try to like to stop a fight between two people you don't know or something like that. And you end up getting in over your head type of thing, and that's the wrong one, man. It is what it is. It's reality.
Yeah. So you said 7 years in between. Yeah, 7 years in between records. And obviously COVID played a part in the big gap. But did you always know Powerflo was coming back?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I always knew Powerflo was going to come back because I had, because I had Billy and Christian, and never once did they ever say, "Hey, I don't want to do this anymore." You know, and Fred Aching Rios too. You know what I mean? We've all been itching and scratching, waiting for our turn. And around that time, after COVID, and I moved to Las Vegas, and then I had to be hospitalized as well, and I had to have surgery. And that's nothing that I want to show off about, but that's just some of the things that happened, to me during this whole process, and that also took years. So when I was able to, get back out there and tour again, I think it was another couple years after that we're getting this record out now. So if you want something bad enough and you believe in something, then you'll stick with it no matter how much time passes. You'll stick with it, and eventually, you know, your hard work it'll reward you. So that's just some of the things that we had to deal with, and even today, like when we make a song or a powerful song, like I'll drive back to LA and record it over there so I could be around Billy and get his expertise and on what he wants me to change and whatnot. And that's the commitment, you know what I mean? And that's the commitment because it's just not like a send me the track, I'll do my vocals here and send it to you. I want to be in the same room with the producer, and I want his feedback and all that stuff. So that's just a little bit of to the inside of how we go about making our music.
I love that. I absolutely love that because in this day and age, there's a lot of files, file transfer going back and forth, but there's not that in the room real time feedback. And I think just the end product's better. I think it's better. You can tell. I feel like you can tell as a music listener.
Yeah, definitely. I think also as making the music and listening to it, that's how I started, man. I go back to the '90s when we would record on 2-inch reel. You know what I mean? And then all the other advancements came out. But I go back, and I'm not trying to say, that I'm from the '80s or '70s, but when I got into recording, we were recording on 2-inch reel, and then all this other, you know, stuff came out, and people were sending me tracks and whatnot. But when I think about Powerflo, it's something that I want to be hanging with the dudes the bros that I'm in the band with, and I want their input right away. I don't want it to get a message about it or anything like that. It's a person to person thing, and I kind of feel like in a bit of a way we've lost that with text messaging and emailing and whatnot. You know what I mean? And that person to
Absolutely.
person
100%.
thing, yeah, it's very very important to be in the same room, with the guys you're creating the music with.
Well, you get that gut reaction, which sometimes is the right reaction. A lot of times is the right reaction. You hear something, you have, I have an idea for this. Let's do this instead. Or that's perfect. Let's add this in. Whereas if you listen to it and you're in the car, you're home on your couch with your iPhone or whatever, and then you think about it for 4 days and you chop it up too much, right? You don't get that
Yeah.
gut reaction like you do in person. So that makes sense
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, and I've always been one of those guys that I like the original feel of things, and I try to stick to the original feel as much as possible. There are times when you're going to have to change things up, but I think what gets me going in the beginning, what I heard in the beginning is what I want to do my vocals to, and it's very important to keep that original feel, So that's definitely a true thing you just said.
Let's talk a couple more tracks. Another standout for me is the title track, Guerrilla Warfare. It's got that heavy metal intro into that killer breakdown. But you go in, that's another track you go in on. And I think, if someone's coming from the Cypress world, they'd be like, shit, Sen had this in him? Hell yeah.
Thank you, brother. Guerrilla Warfare, it's funny how that song came about because, like I told you, Billy would call me up to guest appear on other people's stuff. So that happened, and I had to go in there and write a rap for somebody from some Europe project, right? And at the end of that song, at the end of that verse, I said, guerrilla warfare, welcome to the jungle, right? So I come out of the studio. He goes, "What was that?" I go, "I don't know. What time?" I goes, "That what you just said right there, man." He goes, "Find a different ending for that song because we're gonna use that for us."
Nice.
Oh,
So
no.
the next time I went into the studio, Billy already had the track written, and he's like, "This is guerrilla warfare. Now you just got to come up with the lyrics around it, you know." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I wrote the lyrics, you know, and laid them down, and I could see him from where I do my vocals. I could see Billy, and I could just see him smiling as I laid him down. I'm not like, "Oh, okay." So he actually got me on the right page here. So we took that out of the guest appearance that I was doing. We took those vocals out, laid something else, and then used guerrilla warfare for ourselves. And
Hell yeah.
and he just loved it. He just, you know, Billy's one of those guys that he is once you get his mind going, and it's just 1,000 ideas a minute. And we wrote that song, I think in like, I don't know, it took like 3 or 4 hours to get everything down. And at first I was like, okay, this is a good album song, whatever. But then I came back in another time, and then he had changed played some of the guitars differently, whatever. And I was like, oh boy, so we do got something here. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
there we are. You know, that's guerrilla warfare. That's where it comes from. And you know, and I started just thinking about, you know, a lot of the turmoil that's going on in the world right now. You know, and a lot of hot places that are, you know, are military active and whatnot. You know, a lot of things are going on, and I thought it was appropriate to just go on ahead and lay that song down and live with it, and just, you know, vibe on it. And it turned out to be a good song, I think.
You know what's so cool is just seeing you smile right now. Like 30 plus years in the game, and this still that fire. This still you still get that excitement from
Yeah,
hearing, you know, the riffs and all that. Like that's so
yeah,
cool to me.
yeah. Well, you know, I never thought of myself as a like a great hip hop artist or anything like that. You know, I'm not a great lyricist when it comes to that or anything like that. But when I discovered when I started Powerflo and just started feeling what I was doing and what the band was doing, I'm like, okay, so I guess I am okay as a vocalist. I guess I am all right. You
Yeah.
know?
You're too modest, my friend. You're too
Yeah, yeah. So if we just move it on from there, man, and just keep it moving from there, and try to incorporate as much of Billy's personality and Christian's personality that they have from years of being in the industry themselves into the project. Because I don't want to be the only person that's trying to shine there. I think everyone on stage deserves that, you know, that moment of brightness and shyness to, you know, and I think with Powerflow we achieve that.
Oh, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. Are you looking to play shows, you know, down the line here? I know that the year ends and you know, holidays and all that, that becomes a little difficult, but maybe in the new year, you guys looking to get out there and
Yes,
play some of these songs?
yes, definitely. You know, with everybody's schedule and whatnot, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be hard. But I was having a talk with Billy about having a Powerflow open up from Biohazard, and he was like, "Well, that means that I have to do 2 shows." I go, "Yeah, you got it. You can do
Yeah.
it.
Double duty, baby. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
You're energetic as hell. You could do it. Just not that's not a problem, you know." So we're talking
Yeah.
now about actually next year about, you know, doing some of our own shows, setting up shop somewhere and performing, and then also getting out there and being able to you know, take it around the world as much as we can. You know, maybe some Europe and South America show dates and whatnot, as well as some American, you know, tour dates as well too. So, I mean, that's the purpose. I heard it was Lemmy Kilmister that said, "You're not a real band if you don't tour."
All
You
right
know,
on.
yeah. So from when I heard that, I was like, okay, I get it, I get it. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Yeah.
No
Yeah.
I
pressure.
get it.
Get out on the
Yeah,
road.
we get it. We're gonna get that, you know, and we'll definitely be on the road. And the last album, our first album, we got to go on tour with some really good bands and perform live and, you know, do the brotherhood thing and everything. And it was really a really good feeling, you know. And I just want to, you know, continue that and keep moving forward and going on with the, you know, with the Powerful thing, you know, from this point on. I don't know how many more years I plan to, you know, to be doing music, or how long before I'm not doing music or anything. But right now, I still feel the fire and the fuel that it takes to get, you know, this thing done. You know, and if the fire don't burn within you, that's your first sign that maybe you shouldn't be
Absolutely.
doing that. You know.
Well, I totally agree with that. We talk about on the podcast. We'll check in. You still got that fire's still there. Yep, let's keep going. Just do a gut check.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
these songs, they're moshable. Got some breakdowns, heavy. So the live show, I mean, it'll be different than a hip hop show, And I'm sure when you guys went out with POD and those Life of Agony shows, I'm sure you saw that, moshing and things like that. I mean, I'm sure people have moshed to Cypress Hill before, but I'm sure it's a different vibe live.
Yeah, definitely. It is, man. And we had actually gone out with Body Count during the first album. It was in Europe, and imagine the crowds that they pull in Europe. We were able to open up for Body Count, and at one point, I love Ice-T and all that stuff, but I go, I'm taking some of these fans with me.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna take these fans with me, and then they can, as long as you like what we're doing, you know what I mean. It gives me more incentive to keep on going, and at this age now, where I'm at now, that every record counts. I thought it was time to just release the inner beast in me that has always been there, and I didn't know about it until I started working with Billy and Christian, and they helped me release that animal, and we're doing it. We're doing it now in Powerflo. So I can't tell you how thankful I am for those two guys in that band that really helped me turn the page and grow a little bit and learn a little bit about myself. Billy and Christian really helped me do that. That's Fred as well as Fred.
Oh yeah.
We're thankful that happened too, because it led to this conversation, man. So we're stoked.
Right on, man.
We're stoked that we were able to get to listen to the record, be excited about this project, and I mean, I'm not going to gloss over it. You did say it a little earlier. There's a third Powerflo record in there somewhere down the line, so why not, right? Like, this is awesome.
Yeah, and and the whole Powerflo thing is, and I tell people this, but I think it's all because of Run DMC and Aerosmith, Public Enemy and Anthrax, that one soundtrack that we did,
Judgment Night, baby.
Judgment Night.
Yep.
Judgment Night, and all those things that just were along the way were waking me up a little bit here and there. And then I remember we would go on tour with Cypress Hill and then come back, and then I would be waiting for to go out again with Cypress Hill, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna start recording demos and see what happens. And those demos turned into Powerflo.
Man, Sen Dog, legend in the game. New album comes out. This is going to come out the week that the record comes out. So at the end of this week, if you're listening to this when this interview drops, it'll be November 1st, Guerrilla Warfare, out on New Damage Records. It'll hit streaming. A couple songs are out now. You can get those on stream, but the rest of the record is phenomenal. Guerrilla Warfare, love it. Wrong One, Headstrong. I've listened to it several times, and I come back to certain songs. What's next for you, man? Either personally, business-wise?
Business-wise, man, Cypress Hill, of course, it does what it does. It goes where it wants to go. That's not a problem. And, we got Powerflo back up and going. And at some point, I wouldn't mind doing some more acting along the way. Yeah. And when I did, I had been on camera before, but it never really hit me until like I did the Sons of Anarchy stint that I did. And that really got me like, oh, wow, this is really good. But again, they had the #1 show on TV at the time. And it was really pleasant being around all those guys. And I didn't have to come out of this look. You know what I mean? I didn't have to cry or kiss a woman or anything. I could just be me. And I've been talking to some people, and hopefully I get a chance to do some more acting in the future. But for now, I think that's a lot of work. And we'll, and I'll concentrate on music. But if the right acting role comes along, then I'll consider that. But for now, it's just about Cypress Hill and Powerflo and getting that done, moving ahead. You know what I mean? And I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she's very musical, and she loves it when she hears me on the Powerflo songs. And,
hell yeah.
And then she starts doing a thing with her hair and head banging and whatnot.
Yes.
So, I just got to keep it moving and keep it going. You know what I mean? I feel good where I'm at musically, and I feel good about not just my future, but Powerflo's future too as well. And I think that, our best work is still has yet to be written. And once we get in there and start hammering out the next album, And really, I hope that we could knock down 2 records in a row in one session. But that's for the next year or some other time. For now, we're doing this record, and we plan to, get out there as much as we can, and just to, not just to prove to people, but to prove to myself that we belong here. What we're doing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep. And you do, and the record's awesome, and we're excited for being part of talking about it here this week and having it come out later this week. And yeah, man, this is a dream come true to talk with you today, Sen. So this has been great.
Right on, man. Likewise, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate the time and appreciate the good questioning and all that stuff, man. You know what I mean? It shows that you guys have, listened to what we're doing, and you guys like it and whatnot. And that's one thing that I was always wondering about, like how people are gonna take it, like how, because I've always liked the record and I always felt good about it, but like I said before, not everybody's gonna like your stuff all the time. So so it's definitely cool to talk to some people that have heard it and also like it and whatnot. And here we are, Powerflo for 2024, 25, and into the future.
Love it. Sen, thank you so much, man. This is fucking awesome.
This is great.
Right on, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, man.
If you told me in the 90s I'd be chatting with you now, we'd both be shocked.
You told me 2 weeks ago we'd be chatting with you now, we'd be shocked. So yeah, this is great.
Right on, man. Right on, dude. It's been a blast because from how I started in music to where I am now, and it's been a blast. It's been a wild ride. A lot of ups and downs, and it's all about getting back up, dusting yourself off, and getting back on that horse and trying it again. And it's all about it's a series of comebacks. You're only as good as your last record. Now that people want to hear something new, and so we're trying to give it to them.
Awesome, yeah. So Sen, thank you for joining us. We're excited for you, and we're excited for all that's coming from Powerflo the end of this year into next year, and Cypress Hill and all the stuff you got going on, man.
Right on, man. Good stuff, man. Where are you guys at?
Portland, Maine.
Oh, Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
Has Cypress ever played Portland, Maine?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been in that area with, Maine and Rhode Island and all that stuff, and beautiful country. And we've been there in the summer and the spring, and we've also been in the winter. Like,
yeah. Different world in the winter. Actually, our good friend Rob is a radio jock for the rock radio station in Portland, and asked me to ask you if you remember being at WCYY in Portland, Maine, and being there the same time as Hanson.
Yes. Yes, I do remember that. Yes, I do remember that. That's
awesome.
Yeah. Hey, man, but before we end up, I got to give a shout out to Phil Demo and Ernie C from Body Count. They came out and recorded. They played guitars on the record and stuff, and I'm very thankful for that. You know what I mean? And I just want to give those guys a shout out, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sen. We'll talk to you hopefully down the line.
Okay, sounds good, man. I look forward to it.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to Podioslave. We are at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. YouTube, Podioslave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.